Today we are taking up John Donne's poem A Hymn to God the Father. First, we take up his life and works. John Donne was born sometimes between January 24 and June 19, 1572, and he passed away on March 31st, 1631 in London. He was the leading English poet of the Metaphysical School and Dean of St. Paul's Cathedral, London. Donne is often considered the greatest love poet in the English language. He is also noted for his religious verse and treatises and for his sermons, which rank among the best of the 17th century. Some of the best poems he has written include Go and Catch a Falling Star, The Good Morrow, A Valediction Forbidding Mourning, The Canonization, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Death Be Not Proud, and Sun Rising. Works written include devotions upon emergent occasions and collected poems. Now, a bit about metaphysical poetry. This term metaphysical poetry was actually popularized by Samuel Johnson in his critical biography of the 17th century poet Abraham Cowley in his own book Lives of the Poets. Before Johnson, Dryden had written in 1692 of the metaphysics of Donne's poetry, and before Dryden, William Drummond of Hawthornden had used the term in relation to a group of poets in a letter of around 1630. Samuel Johnson employed the term disparagingly. He was not actually praising these poets. Now, if you see their characteristics, they had a love for daring imagery, enigmatic expressions, a peculiar sensualism, uneasily wedded to a mystical conception of religion, their intellectualism and taste for the expression of novel ideas in a novel manner were some other qualities. The term metaphysical denotes, according to Saintsbury, the habit common to this school of poets of always seeking to express something after, something behind, the simple, obvious first sense and suggestion of a subject. In this way, Donne and his followers strike a note of variance from Spenser and the Spenserians and Elizabethan poetry in general. Now, apart from Donne, there were other poets who came under the category of metaphysical poets, and they include Henry Vaughan, Andrew Marvell, John Cleveland, Abraham Cowley, as well as to a lesser extent George Herbert and Richard Crashaw. Now, if we take this particular poem, A Hymn to God the Father, it is one of John Donne's most famous religious poems. As Donne scholar P.M. Oliver observed, what makes Donne's poem unusual and innovative is that A Hymn to God the Father, in it, Donne has written a hymn that does not set out to praise God so much as to engage him in a debate, because the whole poem is based on questions. The poem is one of Donne's most masterly holy poems. The poem is in 3 stanzas of 6 lines each ending with a refrain, when thou hast done, thou hast not done, for I have more. In each stanza, the speaker holds up his sins to God, and these confessions, while couched in this punning, sometimes daring tone, are nonetheless sincere, and he hopes that God will forgive him for these things. On the screen, you will find A Hymn to God the Father, the text of the poem, for you to see while I teach the poem. The first paragraph, para 1, wilt thou forgive that sin where I begun, which was my sin, though it were done before? Question number 1. Poet asks God that will you forgive the original sin? Now, original sin always refers to the sin of Adam and Eve, the sin of disobedience which they had committed in the Garden of Eden. So that is the sin of the entire humanity, the first sin, the original sin. So he says, will you forgive that sin which is my sin, although it was done much before me? Question number 2. Wilt thou forgive that sin through which I run and do run still, though still I do deplore? He says, will you forgive that sin which I am doing now, which I continue to do, although I am very ashamed of it? When thou hast done, thou hast not done, for I have more. Here you have the use of pun. Pun means it's a literary device where one word is given 2 meanings. So, when thou hast done, meaning when you have done the act of forgiving me, still, done, the poet is not saved. Thou hast not done, that is D-O-N-N-E, done. The meaning there, the pun is D-O-N-N-E, although the spelling in the poem is D-O-N-E. So he says, when you have finished the act of forgiving, still done, the poet is not saved. Why? Because I have more sins. Now, para 2 we will take, wilt thou forgive that sin which I have won others to sin and made my sin their door? Door here see is a metaphor. It just means, showing the way. What he did, he showed he was committing a sin. He used that sin as a door for others also to enter and commit the same sin. So question number 3, he says, will you forgive that sin which I myself committed and made others also to sin? I showed them the way. Wilt thou forgive that sin which I did shun a year or two but wallowed in a score? He says, will you forgive that sin which I stopped doing for a year or two, but then I wallowed in it? Now, wallowed is a term that is associated with pigs. Pigs do that wallowing act, and that is something associated only with animals, that they love to go into the dirt and into the mud, and they wallow, they cover their whole body in that mud. So he says, what I did for a year or two, I did not do that sin, but then I did it with vengeance almost. Why? Because for 20 years 20 more times, maybe a year or two he did not do it, and for 20 years he did it all the more, and with a lot of more force. When thou hast done, thou hast not done, for I have more. He says, when you have done the act of forgiving, still done, the poet is not saved. Why? Because I have got more sins. So till now we have 4 questions which have been asked to God. Now para 3, I have a sin of fear, that when I have spun my last thread, I shall perish on the shore. He says, I am afraid. Now see, this sin of fear is also mistrust. He does not trust God, that God will forgive him. I have a sin of fear, that when I have spun my last thread, I shall perish on the shore. Now this has a reference to the mythology of Penelope, who was supposed to be weaving. Every night she was weaving a shroud for her husband Odysseus, and every whole day she used to weave, and at night she used to open it again. Why? Because that would just keep the suitors away, and she was waiting for Odysseus' return. Now one is that reference. Another is that when you tell a story, you are weaving a yarn, spinning a yarn. So even that second reference it could be. And definitely it could be a reference to a spider also, who's weaving a web, a structure that never lasts for long but must be constantly reconstructed. So if the speaker spins webs, he daily repeats the same actions in a futile pursuit of happiness. He's doing the same things over and over again, just like Odysseus' wife Penelope was doing. So I have a sin of fear, that when I have spun my last thread, I shall perish on the shore. He says, when I'll be spinning my last thread, I will not reach my destination. I shall die right there on the shore. But swear by thyself that at my death thy sun shall shine as he shines now and heretofore. Now swear by thyself, asking God to swear on himself. This is not just height of disrespect, this is the height of mistrust in God's not just kindness, we are talking about God's forgiveness. And he is so very afraid, so very terrified of the sins he has committed, and that he will not be forgiven, that he asks God to swear on himself. But swear by thyself that at my death thy sun refers to Jesus Christ, shall shine as he shines now and heretofore. It says Jesus Christ will be there to receive me. He will continue to shine as brightly as he shines now, and as he will keep on shining till eternity. And having done that thou hast done, I fear no more. It says after you have done this, after you have taken an oath on yourself, you have saved, done the poet. There is no more fear in me. I have a reassurance that I am saved. And simplicity of the format of the poem actually produces a very carefully planned effect. That's what we see. Now Donne's reference to the shore also suggests multiple meanings. Like the first is that of a journey by sea, like that of the mythological heroes such as Odysseus, who embarked upon this unknown destination. Thus the journey could be simply that it represents the journey of life, with the act of reaching the shore suggesting a conclusion of life or death. Second allusion through the shore imagery could be to the river Styx, literally river of hate, one of 5 mythological rivers surrounding Hades. Travelers had to traverse these rivers after death. That's mythology. Now, we see one thing, that this line, when thou hast done, thou hast not done, has been used as a refrain over and over again. Now, when he talks about the last time when he says that God has done, it means that he has stopped using that refrain of the previous 2 paragraphs, because he is convinced now that God has actually saved him. Now, the puns in the refrain line also, if you see it, you will find that done has used that DONE 6 times, where the reference, as I said, is to Donne, DONNE, Donne the poet, and more, for I have more. You will see that in the 2 paragraphs, which ends each stanza, refers to his wife and more, ANNE, and more, MORE, and more was her maiden name, and it refers to his wife also. The meaning of these puns seems to be to add a certain levity to this poem, and may mean either that his wife incites him to more sin, or perhaps she is his consolation for his sins. Now, here you have the modern version of this poem. If you have any difficulty with the Old English, you can just go through this. If you look at the themes are various. There is the theme of sin, which is predominant in the poem, because the poet talks about the original sin in the first paragraphs, then he talks about the sins which he had left for a year or two, and then he wallowed in a score. Then he talks about other sins which he made other people to commit, and he's talking most of the time about sin. But then he talks about compassion and forgiveness also, compassion of God and forgiveness, because God is kind. He will forgive the sins of the poet regardless of how much he has been wallowing in it. And then there's also the free will of the poet, that the poet is free to act right. God never compels anyone to do wrong things. God made us free creatures. We can always decide what to do and what not to do. Where to say a no is in our hands. If we look at the rhyme scheme of the poem, the stanzas are rhymed as AB, 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 and most of the poems rhyme scheme, it's to and fro, and it reinforces this idea of question and answer. He is questioning God for the most part. Now, if you have any questions with regard to this poem, you may put it in the segment below and I shall answer them. Thank you.